Good morning, everyone, again. Welcome to our session about adopting Copilot and driving real value from artificial intelligence in Microsoft 365. Welcome, welcome. As some of you would have known and attended the first session of this event, it was more about readiness and the Copilot data and a little bit about how to set up the Microsoft 365 governance. And this session will be about adoption and about the best practices that the people in this panel have figured out and still learning. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the Gadigal land, online as well as offline, on which we meet today. I'd also like to pay my respects to our elders, past, present, and future, and emerging. If we want to move to the next slide, the discussion format. So this 45 minutes will be all about you. What can you get out of this session? What can you learn? Any questions you have? So you have the opportunity to jot any questions down in the chat and we'll cater to them. Obviously, the chat is being recorded, and we've got Chris, Mark, Simran to help us answer your questions. And then later on, the video that has been recorded as well as the slides will be shared with you, and they'll also be available on the cubesys website. Now, I'd like to actually introduce our speakers on the panel today. We've got Mark West, the Head of Architecture and Insights at Lifeline Australia. So that not-for-profit organization within Australia. And Mark has done quite a bit of work with cubesys, and he's still continuing to adopt Copilot. We've got Simran Jaggi. She's a senior digital customer solutions architect within the data bit for Microsoft. Got Chris Hales from cubesys. Chris is the cloud technology strategist. It's his very recent new role here at cubesys. And myself, Asta Singh. I lead marketing and growth at cubesys, and really happy to be part of this discussion. So hey, we're here. A lot of us are here now. So I want to kick off this discussion with a small poll. So if you guys can actually, so can we have the poll, please, Asma? And once you see the poll, help us understand, where are you with your Copilot journey? Are we just talking about it and trying to understand and explore? Or are we ready to start adoption? Or actively using? We almost got all the responses. That is good to see. Half of us are exploring, and about 37% are starting adoption. That brings me to start kicking off the discussion. So Chris, would you like to take over from here? And yeah, let's get started.
And yeah, I guess it's really interesting to see the breadth of people on today's call, but also the fact that there's still not so many people that are actively utilizing, but are still in that adoption phase or still that discovery phase of AI. AI has been here for quite some time now, and a lot of people are saying we need to do something about it. Need to do something about it. And I think in our last session we talked a lot about governance and preparedness and getting ourselves and our environments ready for AI. I think today it's about understanding the road to adoption. And Simran, I think obviously this is a fairly Microsoft-centric slide, but it's very accurate to what we see as the challenge when it comes to cloud adoption and AI adoption. How does Microsoft see the adoption journey when it comes to Copilot? What's some of the key differentiators between the human change and the technical readiness?
No, thanks, Chris. Thank you. So good morning, everyone. Simran Jaggi here from Microsoft, and I specialize within the data and AI space. And Chris has asked a really great question, and I think this is a very important foundational fundamental stuff to understand when it comes to Copilot. And I think Microsoft has done it right. And I'm going to explain it very simply to you, Chris, and everyone here. Before even you think about, adopting Copilot, we need to make sure we get our house in order. We make sure our permissions are done right, security is good, because Copilot uses your existing 365 settings. If those are not done properly today and everything is a mess, Copilot might cause you some challenges because you want to make sure security is good. And then always start small. You don't have to go big. You don't have to, publish Copilot to everyone. Pick a few team members and use Copilot within them, get feedback, and where you will know where to improve stuff within Copilot. And then you pick champions as well. And then you start with a group of champions internally within your organization. And then you got to create those aha moment within your organization when you start using Copilot, using these prompts, and people will start to get the feel of it, what really Copilot can do for them. And then we've got so much resources on the Microsoft website. I think Chris will put a link in here as well. We've got the Microsoft Toolkit where people can go and download checklists, documentation, resources. I mean, sky's the limit. You have everything in place within Microsoft to get started so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel and follow those checklists. I think the key is to start small and don't just go one and all. I think it's all about learning and practicing as you go on. So yeah, that's pretty much it from my end. What I think is the best idea to start using and adopting Copilot, Chris. So yeah.
And I think it really talks to that aha moment, right? We want to get to that aha moment quickly, right? Everything that comes with adoption is all about achieving or realizing the value, right? That aha moment of I've achieved value by having Copilot in my environment. I guess it's a challenging kind of piece, right, where we think about both the human element of that and the technology readiness of that. But I think it's one of those other things around, the human side of change is sometimes challenging, right? And I think having resources like the link I've put in the chat, obviously the adoption.microsoft subsite for Copilot has a lot of resources around helping us achieve that aha moment at a pace, right? And as quickly as we possibly can, right? That being said, there's always limitations to that. Mark, I know from your side of it, it's, you've got a much larger organization, obviously, and there's a lot more unique kind of use cases inside that space. And do you want to just briefly touch on where you or how you, I guess, highlighted your aha moment when it came to AI?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So yeah, for us, I mean, we're still sort of on that journey, starting the adoption journey. So we're still in that early stages, but we know that there's definitely some use cases for things like unpacking some of the complex sort of knowledge that we have within the organization, whether that be around providing information or guidance to our crisis supporters and our distributed sort of volunteer network, or whether that may be more internally facing around our HR policies and those sort of things that are sort of standard workplace stuff. But for us, yeah, we're just basically we've done, if on that previous slide, we've done the sort of the readiness assessment. We've done some things in there, and to Simran's point, we're starting small, but I think that once people start seeing and getting that sort of bit of aha, that's a really good way to expose some of this knowledge. It's not just about data. I think it's about the knowledge that we have within the organisation, which is spread across a large, well, all of Australia really, and really sort of giving people different ways of consuming that knowledge.
And I think it talks to that point of, right, you've achieved that success in maybe specific use cases and scenarios, and how do you then share that success beyond that team, or how do you replicate that aha moment across other functions? You were talking very briefly between two very different use cases, right? HR policy for internal kind of human support, but also then the crisis support, right? And how you surface information to that team in timely manner, which is a much larger scale, right? But the HR policy is also quite a unique one, right, in that scenario. So having that cross-pollination of AHA.
I think the key to that is just getting something that's demonstrable, so that some people can actually see. I think that's a lot of these things that, you know, that's in any organization, it varies from people that are sort of into it and using, you know, their ChatGPT or their favorite large language model of choice or Copilot. And then there's people that have views on what it can do and what it can't do and what it should do and what it shouldn't do. So I think we covered off in the last webinar around the governance and the policy setting and setting up some guiding principles. And that's really important to make sure that we can align people's expectations and do things safely. So for us, that was a really important step and took quite a lot of work and effort to get that. I think now as we start sort of showing people what it can do, people go, I was having an interesting conversation with the secretariat from the board, and she was like, I get all these people ask me, you know, what happened in this meeting back in 2002 and what was the decisions made and everything like that. You know, we might be able to do something where we can put all the board papers and minutes into a sort of a question and answer type bot or agent to actually allow people to actually understand what decisions were made in 2022, or was it 2019? You know, and that's a very specific use case. So I think, you know, coming back to Simran's point, you know, very specific, very contained. Potentially, you know, one of the things we're looking at trying to do is not go for the big bang approach. I know you guys at cubesys have sort of pivoted, and I think Paul was saying last time that it's, you know, it's you guys are sort of Copilot first or Copilot driven. We're not quite at that stage, but I'm pretty sure once we start showing people some of the power of, you know, that servicing that knowledge and yeah, within the organization, we'll get there pretty quickly, and I've got a feeling it's going to open the floodgates. So we're going to have to have some sort of backlog and register and way of sort of trickling that adoption out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And I think it sorry, Simran, go ahead.
Teams Copilot was my aha moment, Chris. Sorry, Mark. When you don't have to take meetings on a notepad, and literally you just can, the Copilot can take the meetings for you. It has taken so much load off my plate. Like, seriously, I can focus on talking to people, talking to customers, rather than taking notes. I mean, that was my aha moment. I don't know what you guys have an aha moment in your life, but that was great for me.
It's funny.
I was going to say, and that speaks definitely to that whole, this is the top 10 list of aha moments that are happening in Copilot, Mark. And recap is definitely number one, right? Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
I know, I was just saying, you know, it's interesting actually. I remember probably about 6 months ago turning up to a meeting and seeing this person in there. I was like, who's this person? And it was somebody had actually injected a different minute taker. The beauty for me about Copilot is because it's in the Microsoft ecosystem, we can use it safely. Whereas a third party add-in, and there's plenty of ones out there, there's a million sort of Teams plugins, but you're actually sending your data and the information about your meeting. And some of our meetings, you know, we're talking about sensitive situations. So we've basically put in place a sort of a policy that won't allow people to plug in minute taking. And then we're looking at how we can safely roll out the Copilot one as well within Teams. Haven't tackled it yet, but we definitely want to look at that as an option for us for some of the meetings that we have. But I suppose the key thing is the Copilot, because it's in the Office 365 or Microsoft 365 ecosystem, we can be sure that the data is not being pumped to some third party and potentially being recorded somewhere else. So that's a big win for us. I've just got to convince everybody that's true. But I'm working with you guys to make sure that we tick all the boxes on that one.
And the positive of that being into your own ecosystem, if you look at this slide, number 5, tell me about projects. That has helped me so much in my department, wherein I used to write chats to everybody in cubesys, hey, tell me about this customer, this project. And now I do not have to do that, saves me hours. So that helps as well, because it can then go into all the documentation.
And I
For
think
me, I start my computer in the morning and I ask Copilot, tell me all the action items I had from yesterday. Like literally, like I'm human, right? I won't remember everything from yesterday. Copilot does. It gives me the list and I just follow that. It is just so helpful. And maybe,
and I think
yes,
one of the
sorry.
things I loved about that particular scenario is scheduled prompts, right? People
Yes.
don't necessarily see scheduled prompts in M365 as a feature yet, but it's there. And I took that exact example, Simran, and I now have it as a scheduled prompt for 8 a.m. every day. And 8 a.m. every day, my Copilot chat pops up with a new prompt of yesterday's activities and tasks that I've wanted to allocate for myself to today, and what are my outstanding actions. It's one of the coolest little features around schedule prompting that
Yeah.
helps me on a daily basis, right? And the AI first approach that Mark alluded to that we use here at cubesys as well. It's
I think, Chris,
interesting. I think there's plenty of
we should
people on the
ask
call
the
that have,
audience. Yeah, we should
yeah.
ask the audience as well, like what prompts they have used, and this has really changed their life. I don't know, life, like work life. But you should actually put some prompts in. I want to see what you guys are using as well. Like,
Yeah.
good to everyone to know and engage, right?
And then that's just it.
Absolutely.
If for those that are here with us today, out of the top 10, right, what is your favorite one of the top 10, or do you have an alternate one, right?
Yeah.
Feel free to put it in the chat and tell us what is your current, even if you're in that early adoption phase of leveraging Copilot, what's the favorite thing you've found so far with it? But also take into consideration, what's the one thing your company could really leverage, right? And I think the recap meeting and the facilitator function of Teams now, I think is seen quite broadly as an acceptable use of AI, right? That whole RAI model, which I talked about in the previous session with Simran, but also the fact that it's such a significant time saver, right? I know there's another lovely lady in our team, Chrissy Brown, who runs our PMO, and she absolutely loves the facilitator feature, right? Because it just saves her so much time around actions and minutes of all the different project meetings that she has to sit in. So significant advantage in that one.
I think because English is my second language as well, right? I'm gonna be honest, it has really helped me as well to polish. Sometimes you have to have professional emails being sent to your customers. So, you write your email, you let the Copilot read up, and just some little bit of mistakes here and there. It really
And
polishes your email.
not just English, Simran, just the thoughts and how your thoughts are
Everything,
all
yeah.
so organized in the email.
So it really helps. It really
And
helps. Chris.
I write a lot of documents, right? Obviously from more of a professional services consulting background myself, right? So I write a lot of documents. It's incredible how my time to value in writing a brand new kind of solution document is accelerated excessively, right? Based on just telling Copilot, here are the 5 key points I need in this executive summary. And extrapolate that out, make that into a more human readable content. My brain works in PowerPoints and in dot points. So taking that and putting it into a more fleshed out version of what my thoughts are and what my key points are is a huge advantage that Copilot has given a lot of the team here at cubesys. And we'll talk a little bit more about that.
There's one more, and I totally forgot to say, presentations. I mean, that was another game changer. I think we shouldn't forget that. I mean, getting a Word document to upload into a PowerPoint, and it makes a really cool presentation for you. I mean, how cool is that? I was blown away the first time when I saw that. I don't know, people on the call. I mean, it's just a cool feature.
Warren raises a really good point in the chat here, using Copilot as a guide. We found that over the years, even content on the Lifeline website has had many different authors with many different styles and tones, and we've used that as a moderation. And again, but it's really important, and one of our key things is the human in the loop oversight. So I think Warren's point there is it is a guide, it is a replacement, it does do things a lot quicker than I could do them, and probably a lot better use of English language than I've got. But it is a good thing as long as you have that human in the loop or that oversight piece, especially if you're dealing with sensitive data or potentially some of the content that we've got on our website. We need that human oversight, but definitely in terms of sort of normalizing the tone, making it more readable. A lot of the stuff that we deal with is quite clinical in nature, and making it consumable for the general public. Copilot's amazing at that.
And look at that, someone's teams are using it for troubleshooting technical problems as well. Like that is another cool one, right? I mean, how much you can use it for, how broad you can use it for, right?
We've actually, speaking about some of the learnings from cubesys, obviously there's a few things here, but one of the little experiments that we created, our associate director of delivery, Ian, actually developed a small bot, a small agent just for service desk triaging. So he ingests the ticket from our PSA system and give me the first 5 things I should be doing with this ticket, right? And it's triaging the ticket, right? Obviously to making sure we understand the criticality of the ticket, but also the very first steps in troubleshooting, right? Or identifying the resolution of the ticket. Really cool use case around providing and again, leveraging and sourcing that information and guiding our team to the first possible resolution, right? At the starting gate. And I agree with both what Mark and Warren have said in the chat, that guiding, right? It is still, I don't want to say flawed, it is still flawed, but it does need that human eye. It needs that human element. It needs that rationale, right? That comes from the human thinking that comes behind that, right? So it might provocate you to get you to an idea or get you to an understanding. Then it's about validating that information. So what we did at cubesys was a little bit crazy, right? We did a fairly chaotic approach, right? It was adoption by chaos. And adoption by chaos meant that we literally involved AI in everything we could from the very go. As soon as everyone was given a license, everyone was given ideas around creating a prompt of the week. Really simple idea for encouraging adoption. Give somebody $50 a week for the prompt of the week. And we've done that now for 6 weeks. And on a Friday, we have our culture committee team. They're the ones, and our AI champions, they choose the prompt of the week, and then they reward that person with a $50 voucher, right? And it was such a small thing, but it got people using AI in such unique ways and thinking about what's a different kind of prompt that I can put together that other people might leverage and use. We've got one guy working on a timesheet bot, right? And he's created this big master prompt about ingesting information to then help him generate his timesheet in a timely fashion, right? And optimizing his life.
Even our service delivery director, Ian, he's not just that service triaging bot, but he's coming up with different agents. So there's many agents that are going to come into practice in the next few. Anyway, I've got this whole Copilot adoption journey chat that I wanted to talk about, right? So at cubesys, we adopted Copilot about 2.5 months ago, officially. And we went AI first, Copilot first approach. Our co-founders, Paul and Sylvan, made sure that it's really, really fast paced. That Chris just explained. So it was super fast paced. The chaos approach was taken. It was deeply rooted into the culture, and the culture was the culture of experimentation. So that's the first point I wanted to talk about in the cubesys adoption journey, is that we embraced the chaos method. We embraced making this change every day and part of the everyday operations and functions and everything we did. So we enabled the team with information, launching our AI champions. So we've got 4 AI champions within the business who basically are the go-to people if we have any questions, if we have any we wanted to ask unique solutions with them. And like Chris just explained, we run prompt of the week challenge, which on every Friday gets announced, and the winners actually, get dollar value for it. So it's super, super cool. Within the first month, I just got the stats day before. So within the first month, we saw over 5,500 Copilot chats, which averages to about 6 chats per person per day. So that's the level of engagement we figured that it was very quick, and the team had like leaned into this change really, really quickly. So I wanna talk about the 4 C's that I've actually identified, the 4 C's of Copilot adoption. And the 4 C's of Copilot adoption at cubesys, which also starts with the C, what a coincidence. They're culture, champions, clarity, and cadence. So let me just quickly, briefly explain. So culture. So we fostered a culture wherein experimentation and curiosity became part of our DNA. We embraced the chaos method. We flooded the team with information, and then the AI champions helped us guide through. The second one is champions. So empowering our internal AI experts across different departments who became early adopters. They then lead by example. So they lead by example, and they support all of their peers and everyone in the company to then drive the momentum. The third one's clarity. So both in the technical as well as the human readiness space, we needed clarity. So we ran Copilot readiness assessment, we cleaned up our data estate, we aligned governance to then build that trust and that AI output that we really needed. And then obviously Paul, Sylvan, Chris, Ian, George, Benson, all of the AI champions then played a clear role in communicating and structuring that enablement throughout the business. And the last one is cadence. So that rhythm of engagement, that adoption is not a one-off thing, is it? It's a consistent reinforcement that you do every day. So within cubesys, we saw that over those 5,500 chats in the first month, averaging to 6 per person per day, that momentum keeps going and then gradually increases as we take on more and more. We also have a cubesys only bot called QB. So QB has access to all of our functional, operational, all of the department documentations, and basically gets used to not just do the functional processes, but also ask the right questions about the right projects going on in the business, or something to do with marketing or sales or pre-sales. So yeah, so this was essentially the journey that we followed, and we're not even touching 10% of, we're only scratching the surface. I think there's a lot to come, and super exciting stuff to come.
I think the one point I do want to make in terms of your adoption of the Copilot, the usage metrics is very important. You want to make sure that you have, people are actually using it. You can give them a license, but you can never get them to use it. So I think these metrics are very important to see. People are actually liking it, they're using it. When are they actually using it? What time of the day they're using it more? So I think these are really key things you just mentioned, Asta. So I think that's something I think is really important as well.
And it's, Copilot's like having a personal assistant, right? That you just didn't realize you had access to, right? So I think another really kind of unique use case in that scenario is use Copilot like a personal assistant. Get it to find those, like we mentioned in our top 10, right? The recap of the meeting, or what are our activities and actions for today. Leveraging it in a slightly, you got to treat it like a bit of an assistant, a bit of a junior. You've got to give it clear instruction, right? And so you can get the best results out of it. And I think I really like what John's put in the chat around the 5th C could be collab. I think collaboration, not only with your AI champions, but also cross-functional, is really important when it comes to AI utilization. And I think, Mark, you're seeing that where you've got, your crisis support, your frontline team really urgently wanting to have a way of surfacing information quickly and accurately. But I think the rest of your organization is also starting to see the use case where having access to or surfacing that information quickly is going to be key to their adoption and their utilization of Copilot moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we're not taking away the existing way of finding information. They can still open up the 200-page PDF and press Control F and find the things the way that they're used to. And that's fine, like we're not but we were just giving an alternative. So again, it's sort of working with the human rather than trying to replace anything at the moment. We're not really, and again, just to be clear, I mean, the frontline workers, we're not using it for help seeker advice or anything help seeker facing at the moment. We've been very cautious to say, there's enough opportunity for us to get value from Copilot or AI in general that's not help seeker facing, and we're slowly unpacking that and finding some nuggets in there.
Yeah, and I think like you said, you need to demonsterize it, right? You need to find the right areas to gain momentum with adoption, right? With the right use cases, right? So identifying those is kind of challenging in sometimes when it's in a larger organization. Obviously, the human element of change, and something that obviously our learnings in cubesys is one of the hardest elements. Getting the technology and getting yourself ready for the technology is one part of it, but changing the human side of it, changing the process side of it, elevating your internal, I guess, consumption of it as well, so that you can reflect and use that across the team. Challenging our team to come up with prompt of the week has definitely reinforced that change of behavior, the change of habit, right?
Rather than not just coming with the prompt, but also someone said, hey, Asta, have you asked Copilot to create a prompt for you? And I was like, oh, well, why did I not think about that? And now I've been asking Copilot with all of the information that I have, hey, help me create a prompt for you. And those prompts actually give me 15 to 20% more information and better results than the prompt that I do. So approach of, again, it changed. Now my approach has changed.
Sorry, Simran, you were going to add?
Oh no, I was talking about the $50 thing you give it to people. I mean, that's like, if you want to be rich, just work in cubesys, right? So here we go.
Yeah, probably won't scale, right? Very well, but
and this Friday that's just passed by, there were 2 winners. So 2 people got the $50 vouchers. So it's just fun and more inspiration.
Hang on, Ashton, weren't you one of them? you just throwing that jab in there, right? My one wasn't picked, obviously.
John has come up with the 6th C, which is cash.
Which
is our adoption speed. I love that.
And I think it's interesting, right? Well, obviously, there are so many different things you need to consider when it comes to your adoption journey, right? And obviously, we've talked a lot about M365 chat, and you would have heard some smattering of conversation around agents and leveraging more that Copilot style agent. And there's a couple of different flavors inside that. Obviously, Mark, you're looking more at the more in-depth kind of personalization and security bound kind of agent delivery, right? And agents for purpose, right? And agents for function. And I think there's a combination where, and actually you mentioned QB, which is more of a Copilot chat agent, right? And it's designed to be more leveraged as a discussion chat rather than a point and click kind of agent or security bound agent, right? Which is what Mark's kind of looking towards. But you can also build out from just using chat, which is not always perfect for every scenario. Maybe you then need to have a bot or an agent for HR policy and govern that by saying, right, your knowledge is bound by this boundary, and therefore they don't go outside of that knowledge boundary to obtain information,
and
which
that
might
work
contradict.
and web thing as well. So within chat there is 2 spaces, right? So you work in the workspace to leverage your SharePoint and all of the internal directories, whereas the web space then goes out
and then go out to the
information.
internet, right? And leverage out to the internet. And really, it's a very simple UI difference, right? To say, right, stick within my context. In M365 work profile, it'll still leverage the internet for sources if you allow it, right? But you can also then control it.
Yeah, there's a couple of drivers from that, and to John's point, C for cash. Our volunteer network, which is like over 4,000 volunteers, obviously we don't have the cash to go and buy them all Copilot, but we can create agents and then deploy those agents on a per use basis. So if you take, and keep me honest here, but the 5,500 per month, I think it's like 1 cent per prompt, so that's what, $5 or $50 or something like that. It becomes a very cost-effective way of giving people access to knowledge. And the other key driver for me is given that the people already have access to these documents and this knowledge base, the process around the adoption piece for me is an easier story to tell, because I'm not giving new information, I'm containing that. So the adoption piece for me, the risk profile and the risk assessment piece, there's no PII data in those manuals and training documentation and everything like that. It's something that the crisis supporters already have access to. I'm just giving them a different way of getting hold of it and being able to interact with it. So yeah,
that's such an interesting use case, actually, to think about a holistic way and not have a per license. Like, you can't get licenses for 4,000 volunteers or whatever that number is.
And I
well,
think
we could, but it would take a lot of
yeah, it'd take a lot of cash, right? And that's just it.
But also, again, it's not that big scary sort of, what are people going to do with this? We've got the guardrails and the control, and that comes back to what we were talking about last time on the governance side of things. We're not saying we're never going to use it, but we are sort of trying to put some controls in place about how we will use it. Yeah.
And I think it leans into some of that area of, the custom, build your own agents and build your own kind of componentry around that. And there's also those pre-builts. And I think some people don't necessarily fully leverage some of the already defined pre-built ones, like the researcher. I've recently become quite a strong advocate for the researcher agent, because it is so detailed and in depth around, and just in the initial prompting questions, right? You might give it, say, I want to research this topic. It's going to fire back at least 3 or 4 questions to you to validate what it's going to then go and research, to then go and provide you with a really detailed summary of it. I recently used the researcher agent, which is pre-built, which to do a Essential 8 maturity level 1 and 2 comparison to Microsoft 365 licensing. So I was able to get within about 10 minutes, because the researcher, it reiterates and retries a few times to regenerate, to make sure that it doesn't hallucinate any information. It then gave me a really nicely detailed table of, in order to achieve these controls in ML1, you need this license. These controls in ML2, you need this license. It gave me a really good snapshot, as well as all of the data behind it, to then, for me to leverage in a customer conversation to go, right, so in order for us to achieve X, Y, and Z, we need to have these sorts of licenses ready to go. And that researcher pre-built agent is very detailed in its response. It's not perfect. Again, that's a guide. So it needs to be leveraged as a guide and go, right, okay, but a very quick validation of that information that's been surfaced then gives me a shorter time to resolution and response to that customer query. So things like that. I was also playing just last night with the pre-built agent for M365 admin. I saw obviously a couple of people in the chat using it for that frontline kind of support for their support teams. The pre-built agent inside M365 admin is actually quite useful for reminding you of where to go and understanding where you need to be for configuring a particular type of setting, right? It'll help you find where that setting is, with the constant change of portals and names inside, M365 admin. It's definitely been helpful with going, no, it's no longer in purview dot, it's in security dot, and it's under this section. So a really cool way of utilizing it as well.
And I think what I like about the whole slide you have here is everything is low code, no code, which means you don't have to have that coding background to develop any of the agents within your organization. One of the very common use cases we work in Microsoft with a lot of organizations is when people create service desk tickets, they have, it's a manual process. What if you have an agent, a chatbot, where you can ask questions, and that is, and the chatbot can give you the answers you're looking for. Resetting a password can help you do that too as well. So at the back end, everything is very low code. So you don't have to worry about doing a large amounts of Python coding at this stage. So Copilot Studio, Agentic AI is a new norm nowadays.
So just reminding that we've got a few minutes. So let's move through the slides, and I'll get Asma to send through some of the links and the previous Copilot event link here as well, so people can copy and paste within their own space.
Before you leave the chat, yes. I guess one of the slides I wanted to bring up here is also reminding everybody that Copilot is being integrated holistically, right, inside the Microsoft suite. So it's obviously today's conversation has been very heavily focused around the M365 Copilot function, which is that modern work kind of space. But Copilot is getting further and further reach inside the Microsoft ecosystem, right? So plenty of different opportunities for Copilot in future as well. Things like really finding Copilot as an Excel prompt, right? So putting equals Copilot in Excel now is going to allow you to do some prompting natively inside Excel to help visualize your data a little bit further. But I think I want to hear a little bit more from Mark around that adoption journey that you're currently on. I know that you've spoken to me about, where you're at with what you're trying to achieve, but also some of those early successes that you've won. I think with the board secretary is also a really cool example of that.
Yeah, look, I think it's all about that sort of start small and show people, so it's not just hypothetical. I think that's really people will get it quite quickly. I think the other key one, and I think Paul mentioned this last time, is remembering to use it as well. Is key to adoption. I think not trying to come up with use cases that sit well within the business. I think the technology piece isn't the issue. I mean, the first slide you talked to, Chris, was about that human change piece. So let's pick something that has demonstrable value. Pick something that's not like I mentioned before, but the one of the first one off the rank, it's not new data. People already have access to it. I'm not having to jump through the data governance and adoption processes. So everybody's like, oh, that's okay. Yeah, that's fine. Why wouldn't we do it? So it's trying to find those sort of use cases. And I think then as people start seeing the results, they'll go, oh, well, if you can do that and I've already had some examples, as was explained earlier, of people really going, oh, well, if it does that, then maybe you can do that for me. I think the other one is, we talked last week about governance, and I won't sort of go back over that again, but having some sort of confidence from the executive that you are not just letting this run wild within the organization. And certainly, for something, for an organization such as ourselves, we don't have, 300 people in the data team or the AI team that we can leverage on. We've got to be very pedantic around what we will do and what we won't do. But I think that will change. I mean, like I say, I'm looking forward to being here in 12 months' time and seeing how far along this journey we will have come. I'm sure, I don't think it's a technology challenge as such. There's, data security, privacy. We talk about trust and transparency here. Those are all non-technical challenges. And then they don't go away just because you've got Copilot. So it's just basically picking, as I always say, picking your battles, but picking your use cases and coming up with that early success stories that people then get excited about it. And it's a genuine excitement. I think there's a lot of people that are a little bit skeptical and also concerned. Obviously the concerns around providing either wrong advice or wrong information in our environment is important. But that's why we're sort of picking off the analogy, the low-hanging fruit, or picking off some of the use cases to demonstrate it is much better way of getting an adoption.
But Mark, the conversation has evolved. The discussions that we had in that in-person roundtable, in the not-for-profit roundtable for Copilot a year and a half ago, to the conversations that we're having now and what you're saying, I think it's been a curve for learning.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and that's not, I can't claim that because obviously you see it in the media now and you see all the good positive use cases, and unfortunately you see some negative ones as well. But I think there's definitely the needle has changed and it's a bit of a tipping point, I think. And like I say, in 12 months' time, we'll all look back and go, oh wow, do you remember that time when we didn't have Copilot, or we didn't have, we had to write our own, documents and meeting notes and things like that.
And I think
I
it's
think
it's indicator of those early successes, right? And
Yeah.
demonstrating the componentry of what you're trying to deliver. Sorry, Simran, you go ahead.
Oh, no. I really like one thing Mark said, and I want to highlight that is the use cases which really make sense to the business. If you try to make them adopt Copilot, you have to have those use cases which will help them take that task off their hands, and they give them that time and space to do other things. So I think this was spot on, and this is what you really need to tell the users that this is the new tool you got to use from now on, and this will help you save time.
That's it. It's just another tool, you know, and you know, yeah. I just think, you know, we'll look back and we'll be looking at, you know, remember when we didn't have emails on your phone and when you didn't have, you know, those sort of things. It will be a little bit like that. So
I think it'd be really interesting to see a 12-month retrospective again, right? Obviously, the roundtables and things that we had kind of middle of last year to now, there's been quite a significant change. And I think another 12 months further down the track, we'll be talking more about advanced adoption and next use cases, next big ideas, right, coming out of that space as well. Yeah, really interesting conversation today, and wanted to thank everyone here for being a part of that. It's been a really robust discussion. I really like the fact that it's a fluid conversation. And I want to also thank everyone that's participated in the chat. Thank you guys for putting in your questions, putting in your ideas and the prompt ideas. That's been fantastic to see.
And the next one up in the series is on the 16th, which is just 2 weeks away. So yeah, join in the conversation. So that'll be about evolving and scaling once you've adopted a Copilot and talking about maturity.
Awesome.
fantastic.
Thank you, everyone.
And again, thank
Great.
you. Yeah, it's been fantastic. Thank you, everyone here.